Welcome to the video. This tutorial will show you how to install Kali Linux on VirtualBox. Kali has all kinds of cool security tools. So first I got the 64-bit Kali ISO file from their website. I will be running Kali using VirtualBox. VirtualBox is a free software that allows you to run virtualized operating systems on your computer. Any application that's run using VirtualBox is essentially run as an application, so this means you don't have to truly partition your drives, and it can be deleted like a file anytime you desire, so that's pretty nice. I'm going to start by creating a new container in VirtualBox that will hold Kali's operating system. To create this container, I'm going to press New. Now I'm going to name the VM. I'm just going to name it Kali, and I'm going to select the type of operating system as Linux. I'm just going to allot the standard 1024 megabytes of RAM here. Since I don't have an existing virtual hard disk, I'm going to create a new one that will hold Kali. These are kind of like partitions, except that I'm not physically creating a new volume on the hard drive. It is very important that you select dynamically allocated here. When you dynamically allocate space, essentially, as the operating system grows, it can take up that space on the hard drive. If you don't dynamically allocate it, then that space will automatically be taken up regardless of if you're using it. So this will be a fast way to fill up your hard drive if you don't select dynamically allocated. So I'm going to set the size to about 30 gigabytes. Since I select dynamically allocated, it won't automatically set this aside. This is just the maximum size it can grow to. Now I'm going to select Create to finish creating this container. Before I power on this virtual machine, I'm going to select Settings to basically insert the installation media. So I'm going to select Storage, and then I'm going to select the little CD thing next to the controller IDE. I'm going to choose the disk, and I'm going to select the ISO file that we downloaded from Kali earlier in this tutorial. Now we have the container set up and the installation media essentially inserted into the machine, if you will call it that. The next step is to power on the virtual machine and start the install. So to power on the machine, I'm just going to double click it. Now, if you just want to run Kali immediately and don't care about saving any files, you can just run it as the live version. Essentially, this will reinstall Kali every single time you run it. This is kind of nice if you work with viruses or something, because you don't have to worry about your machine being infected from the last time you opened it. But in this case, we're actually going to install it. So I'm going to select Graphical Install, since that's easier. I'm going to select my language as English and my country as United States. I speak American English. I was nice and I cut out most of the loading time for you guys. Overall, this took me about 15 minutes to install, but the video is shorter. I'm going to give this virtual machine a host name of Kali. The host name is the name of the device, and it's essentially what the device will be seen as on the network. I am not connecting this virtual machine to a domain, but if I were, this is where I could do that. Here I will set my root password. When I go to login, my username will be root and the password will be whatever I set here. I'm going to set my time zone to Eastern, and once again I've cut out quite a bit of loading here. Now, I know the word partition can be very scary to a lot of new users. Here, all I'm doing is I'm partitioning basically the virtual container that I set up at the start of this tutorial. So of that 30 gigabytes I set aside, that's all that can be partitioned. And once again, since it is a virtual machine and I dynamically allocated it, I can just delete the machine whenever I want, and it will be basically like deleting a file. So it's not a true partition here, don't worry. No data that's on the host machine will be affected. So in this case, I'm going to select guided and tell it to use the whole disk, which once again is only that 30 gigabytes that we set aside, and that's free space. So now I'm going to select the disk that I wish to partition. I'm going to say that all files should be in one partition. I'm not really doing anything fancy here. I'm going to select that that is indeed what I want to partition, and I'll confirm that one final time here. And when I continue, it will begin the partition process. Once again, I've cut some loading time here. Now I'm going to select here to install the package manager to install updates. I'm not going to use a proxy server, but if I were going to, that was where I would have done it. I'm going to select yes here to install the Grub bootloader, and then here I'm going to select the disk that I wish to install it on. Once again, it's a virtual disk, so it's not scary. Now the system will restart because it's essentially installed. You select Kali Linux. You'll basically see some code running across the screen to load the operating system, and now you can see the login page. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Leave any questions in the comments and I'll do my best to answer.